Hey, it's Mark Lanier with your video thought for the day. Well, my friend Lois, she sent me an email and she asked me about maybe doing a series of video thoughts on how we know that we're in the presence of God or how we learn the presence of God. And she suggested some different ways, and I want to look at some of what she suggested and maybe throw in a few ideas of my own. But this is especially pertinent as we are in this season where we are. We're in fact, it's unique. This is a year when Hanukkah and Christmas are actually aligning. And Hanukkah, of course, is a celebration of the very presence of God in the process of Him supplying oil beyond measure and taking care of His people who trusted in Him. Jesus celebrated Hanukkah. Many Jews today celebrate Hanukkah. But it's also the Christmas season, which is a season where the Christians, we celebrate the coming of the Messiah and the peace that He has brought. Of course, we sing peace on earth, and heaven knows that we're far away from that, but individual peace that He's brought to everybody. And so how do we know we're in the presence of this God? Where do we derive our awareness? Is it some touchy-feely something? Is it something that we're consciously thinking about? Is it something that manifests itself by an email we get sent? A verification code on our cell phone. You're in the presence of God. Type in this code. No, I think that there are a lot of different ways. It's complicated in the sense that it's multifaceted. The presence of God is something that we find ourselves involved in lots of ways, but it's also very simple. It's something that we can understand quite readily. So with that as a background, let's start today and let's talk about the mind. Is the presence of God something that we understand and experience within consciousness, conscious thought, the mind? It's an interesting idea. And mind, the Hebrew word for mind actually is lev, which is the heart, because at the Hebrew time, the source of your thinking and all was considered to be associated with the organ that we would call the heart. But oftentimes that word, that is the organ of the heart, is translated mind because it's clear that that's what the writers are talking about. So look at, for example, a proverb. Proverb 28 verse 26 says, "Whoever trusts in his own mind is a fool." Now you might be saying, aha, so the mind is not a good testing point to see whether or not we're in the presence of God. Well, that's just the first part of that proverb. The second part of the proverb says, "But he who walks in wisdom will be delivered." Well, wisdom, chachma in the Hebrew, is this idea of seeing the world the way God does. So it's not just having a human mind, but it's having your mind in relationship with the divine mind. And so I think the Proverb's making the point, if you just live in your own mind, you're going to be a fool. But if your mind will connect with the divine mind, the divine consciousness, the revelation and words of God, then you're going to find deliverance, because you'll find that God is present within you, within your mind, as you find yourself present in His word and in who He is. So there's certainly that awareness there, and that dovetails nicely with Isaiah chapter 26, verse 3. The prophet Isaiah said that God keeps the person in perfect peace if that person's mind is stayed on God. Isaiah then says, because that person will trust God. And so this idea of your mind being stayed on God, the Hebrew verb for stayed is samach. And samach is this idea of leaning on something or being supported by something. It's passive there. So the person whose mind is supported by God, who's leaning on God, in their mind is going to be in perfect peace. Now, this means that we can be aware of the presence of God through our conscious thought, but it's going to happen within the confines of us leaning and supporting him and finding ourselves in his consciousness through his word. So it's something we want to spend time reading the word of God and praying about it and seeking him out and knowing that he will be present with us in our minds. It's a wonderful thought. We've got more to say about this during the week, but this is enough for today. It's your video thought for today.